Hi everyone. This presentation is going to be about placing raster and vector images into an InDesign document. I'm kind of picking up where I left off on the last screencast, so you can see I've already set aside space, my black shapes here, that I intend to place images into. Some of these images raster, some might be vector. I might even create a new one just for the sake of raster or vector. What makes it really helpful for you to already have these shapes in place is you're able to select the shape before you go to the File and Place drop-down menu, so that what you're placing is already inside of the shape itself that you've selected. So look at these shapes that you've created as containers, and each container that you place an image inside of allows you to crop, scale, whatever it is you need to do to images that you've placed inside of. So I'm going to select this shape here. Before I do this, however, I'm going to open my swatches panel, and I'm going to change the shape's color to the color of paper, which means no ink, aka generally white if the paper is white. So it's the color of paper. So I'm going to change the color to the color of paper, or even the color of none. Either will do. I don't want to place the image inside of a shape that's black, though, because that black will actually try and print. So with this shape selected, I'm going to go to File, Place. I am going to locate the folder that I have neatly named and organized all of the raster images that I have resaved. And I'm trying to look for a raster image for this space that I think will be large enough for me to be able to put inside of that shape. Now, I don't remember off the top of my head what the width and height of each of these images is. I do remember that this one here was awful large, so I might be able to use this image or a piece of this image. Now, I want you to notice, though, before I click the Open button to place this image into the shape I have selected in InDesign, this image is short but long, and the shape that I'm placing it inside of is not long, and it's kind of tall. So the proportions are very different. What I am not going to do is try and squash and stretch this image in its entirety to fit in the shape. Instead, I'm going to allow the shape that I have selected right now to crop the excess image that I don't need out of the shape. So right now, this image that I have placed inside of this container, I'm going to go ahead and select with my direct selection tool the contents of this picture frame. You'll notice that it's the picture and not the frame that is selected. So if I click and hold, I can actually move this picture around inside of the shape, right? It is not moving the frame, it is the picture inside of the frame that I'm moving around. And that's because I use the direct select tool to select the contents of the frame. If I had used my regular select tool, I would be selecting the frame and the contents. If I use the direct select tool, I am selecting the contents of the frame only. So that allows me to scale, rotate, modify. Now, what I want to make sure that I also do is if I'm going to scale, I'm going to scale down and not up, because if I scale up, I'm actually making those pixels larger, right? It does not matter whether or not, whoops, here I go, I just distorted it without paying attention. I'm going to hit undo. But you want to make sure that if you are going to scale an image inside of a picture frame, one, that you don't distort the image to force it to fit. Grandma knows what's going on there when she sees that. And you want to make sure that you're not scaling the image up and making it larger than it is in actuality. You can check your control panel along the top of the screen. If these two numbers up here are larger than 100%, then that means you have scaled the image up and you've just made the pixels larger, making it possible for grandma and everybody else to see your pixels. And you guys know nobody wants to see your pixels. You got to be a little bit reserved about who can see your pixels. You certainly don't want to look like a rookie with people see in your pixels, right? So I'm moving this picture around on the inside of this frame, and I'm going to crop it in a way that is how I want it cropped. Now, the other option when you go to File and Place is to place an image without any container selected first. So if I go to File and Place, and I locate that exact same image and click Open, and then I click, notice the entire image is being placed onto my InDesign layout. However, this entire image is not being cropped at all by any container. If I wanted to crop this image and not have the entire thing there, I would need to use my Select tool, not Direct Select, but my Select tool. And my Select tool will allow me to crop without scaling the image, right? So the Select tool and the Direct Select tool behave a little bit differently when you're working with placed images in InDesign. The Select tool, I know you guys who are used to using Illustrator are used to using the Select tool in Illustrator to do things like scale and rotate, but this doesn't scale in InDesign when you're working with a placed image. Instead, it crops that image, which I prefer actually to crop the images. So make sure as you're working with images, when you're placing them into InDesign, that you're not trying to place images that are too small for the container that you're placing them into. If that's the case, you're going to be very tempted to scale that image up to get it to fill the frame. And we do not, absolutely do not, scale up or distort the proportions of an image after we've placed it in InDesign, especially one that is raster. So the rules are a little bit different for vector, but that's another presentation, and I'll make that one for you now.